Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. I am DJ Impact. We got the Vegas Bad Boys with us, and we're all excited to have you on with us. Normally, on our three counts, we always scroll through all the internets and try to figure out what story that made the most noise and talk about that. And one happened last week that we wanted to just focus one episode, a little bit larger amount of time, more than the 10 minutes we normally would maybe spend on a topic, because we believe it deserved just more time. And that was the announcement of Triple H retiring in the ring. And we learned this during the interview with Stephen A. Smith. And again, this was about a good week and a half ago. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I'm sure if you have ESPN, any of the packages or anyway, or YouTube or something, you will be able to find it. But we learned a lot from that, and because ultimately we didn't know what was going on with Triple H outside of the one tweet that he had tweeted out. Lots of speculations, big development, what's happening in the brand that he helped build, and then it's just silence, and we knew that there was some sort of a heart issue, but it didn't really go deeper than that. And so we learned a lot from that, and now that we know, we now can really uh, create some sort of a opinion on how we feel about all of this that has happened from the beginning even up to this point. And so we're just going to talk about that a little bit, and maybe you may feel the same. And we're always welcome you to throw anything into the comments, and more importantly, tell others about the show, and get them to listen, and they also can put what their thoughts are as well. All right, fellas. I won't necessarily call on any one of you in particular. I'd see which one may want to just go first. But you heard the announcement. It looked like it was about to get pretty grim for Triple H when this process was happening. And we're glad that everything seems to be all right and better. But we're also learning we won't get a chance to see him in the ring. And one thing we did learn in that interview was he was thinking about being a part of Mania, which just passed by in Dallas here. He was planning on possibly being a part of that, and had to scrap that. So what are your thoughts about all of this that has happened? And, Triple H has been a big part of all four of us. Our love for wrestling, majority of that will come, to be honest, from Triple H. So what's your take when you heard either one?
I'll go ahead and start then.
Yeah.
So pretty much for me, a lot of stuff hit home, especially with the health and regarding to the heart. Mm-hmm. I've been pretty public for the last 6 months. I haven't been very public, but y'all fellas know that I've experienced my own issues with heart problems, and it definitely does bring you in a way to where you start thinking about your own mortality, and then how quickly things can turn. And for Triple H, he had a way worse type of scare, because he basically was basically in his genes, and he didn't even know. And he said that he alluded to that in the actual interview, that WWE had some of the greatest cardiologists you could have, money could buy. And I was experiencing some of the same things, to where I was getting my vitals and they were coming back flawless, but still there was stuff that was going on. And then finally, after going to a cardiologist, revealed some stuff going on with me, to where I had to make some changes as well. So shout out for going through that. I felt him when he stated, his younger daughters, and just kind of like, look, you see your parent in this healthy light, and then all of a sudden they getting a little bit of sick, because it started with him getting sick, and then it leads into complications of his heart. So that's pretty scary. With regards to him retiring from in-ring competition, for me, I wasn't surprised per se, because I kind of saw that writing on the wall probably about maybe a little bit before COVID, that eventually he was going to be hanging it up. But that's only because for me, I felt more attached to Triple H working in the front office, at the time, being really a huge mover and shaker with NXT branding moving the way it was. So for me, I felt more in love with Triple H in that aspect versus having a hard time as a fan growing up seeing Triple H be this in-ring, the game. So I mean that's kind of my take on it. Shout out to him and the strength that he has, and although we are not seeing Triple H in the ring, I know he will be right back at it. He didn't say in the interview the timeline of when he is back working in the front office. I don't know when that started.
He's already back.
That's what I figured. He made it seem like it was maybe like a couple months ago, but I feel like it was much longer than that. So, you know how it is. By the time we get to certain things or they say it, it's been a lot longer than that. I know we won't see the last of Triple H. He will resurface in a different capacity, and we'll love him just as much as we have before. That's my take.
All right. Definitely. I think that's really well said. For me, I think the one thing that really kind of stood out for me is that, Triple H, I think he kind of embodied what it was like to be a professional wrestler in the 2000s. Something that I saw that was really staggering is Triple H had 412 action figures produced of his likeness between the 1990s and 2010s, wow, according to the Wrestling Figure Checklist, the majority of which were produced by Jakks Pacific and Mattel. That number makes Triple H one of the most produced wrestlers in history. So obviously a huge facet of professional wrestling is the in-ring competition, but also the merchandise that is produced. The fact that his face and his likeness were everywhere in the 2000s. He was actually named the Wrestler of the Decade by the Baltimore Sun, a mainstream publishing, a mainstream paper. And also he was also the Wrestler of the Decade according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And he is also a 2005, he was voted in 2005 to being in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. Now, obviously, say what you will about the Observer or any of that kind of thing. He's definitely won his share of Feud of the Year nominees, or awards, I should say. He's also won Worst Feud of the Year awards. So, of course, the something like the Observer is going to have a very polarizing view of Triple H. Because traditionally things like the Observer and the readers of the Observer tend to prioritize in-ring work and technical matches. Triple H was not the most technical of wrestlers. I think that anybody would agree to that. But he was one hell of a showman, and he, whether it was, any of the skits that he did with DX, to any of the matches that he put on, most of the things that you're going to picture from the 2000s, from 2000 to 2009, damn sure going to be mentioning Triple H in a lot of those items. So yeah, he really, I think he really kind of filled a void. And I think it's unfortunate that it gets overshadowed by the fact that he married who he married, and that, everybody pins it all on that. But the fact is, he had, okay, if you want to say that he was put in a great position as a result of that, then fine. But the fact is that he got that ball and he ran with it. And I think that, even up until a couple of years ago, he did the stuff, for the Saudi shows. And I think that his love for the business is always going to be there. Simon, you did a great service by mentioning the work that he did with NXT. And that really kind of endeared him to a completely new crop of viewers and fans alike, and also workers alike. So the fingerprint that he will leave on the industry is something that we will not soon forget.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things, and DJ and I have had conversations in the past few months about the fact that DJ couldn't understand why Triple H, why there was no coming out and talking about what's going on.
Which, by the way, Stephen A asked that exact question. So I wasn't wrong in my thinking, because that was a big question. Like, it was something that just didn't make sense there. So I'll let you continue, but I just wanted to throw that in there too, because Stephen A made a point like, why did you wait so long to say anything? Because that's not usually what most people do. They can be pretty open, especially at a figure as large as Triple H. They usually give a little bit more. He was very quiet.
Yeah, and then what I always told you was it's far worse than they're letting on, and that's true. When he finally decided to tell what was going on, nobody knew that he was that close to death. So we have to be honest, and at that point, there comes that time where you have to separate yourself from the public, and everyone likes to play wrestling observer and think they know the inside stuff and all that crap. And the truth of the matter is well, boy, they're stripping him all this NXT stuff and et cetera, and boy, he they blindsided him, and it's like, no, he wasn't blindsided. He knew this was going on. He knew this was going to be happening, but his heart got in the way of him being present while that transition was happening to NXT. And like I, emphasize, all the guys who were let go were quote unquote Triple H guys, except for one guy, Shawn Michaels. And Shawn, is a guy that Hunter trusts his life with. And there you go. And that's, it brings all of this kind of to a pretty package of what happened and why it happened, and how things are in place now. But the biggest thing about this is he was already semi-retired, right? So we can't really say, oh my God, we've been deprived of the next 10 years of his career. So that's, I think it's that counterbalance. It's, oh my God, he's still alive, which is fucking phenomenal. All right. But you can look back and go, hey, when he was wrestling in 96 and 97, he wrestled Mick Foley, The Rock, and Goldust. All three of those feuds were some of the best work, and set up, especially with Foley and The Rock, the progression of those guys becoming the major players they were as well. So all three of those guys kind of intertwined. And you got to look at, if you go back on the network and you watch the Calgary Stampede, where he has a fucking great match with Goldust. The cage match he had at SummerSlam with Foley in what it would have been 97, I believe it was, where Foley rips off his shirt to show the Dude Love quote unquote tattoo melting down his chest. That was phenomenal. Madison Square Garden, where Cactus Jack made his return against Hunter. Madison Square Garden, where in 2000 Cactus Jack had that street fight at the Royal Rumble with him. That was fucking amazing, where Hunter got his fucking calf punctured during the match on a nail that was sticking up in a board. One of the coolest things that Vince did, and this was before Hunter was his son-in-law. The WrestleMania 2000 match where you had Big Show and Mick and The Rock going against Hunter, and you had a McMahon in every corner. The fans in the pond wanted to see The Rock win hands down. But they also would have loved to have seen Mick or the Big Show win because it wasn't Hunter. He was that big of a heel that it was such a big build-up that one of those fucking faces was going to take the belt off of him, and Vince booked him to win. And that was the first time that Vince went against the WrestleMania tradition of having the big babyface champion go over. Yeah. And people left the pond fucking pissed. They didn't understand what the fuck had just happened. And I ended up laughing. I would just stop and I would just start laughing at people because they had tears.
I remember that.
Was that DJ?
No, I'm sorry. I was just thinking because I was at that show and I was like, I remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think because there was something at the very end. Fans were so upset. I remember the McMahons and some of the wrestlers, they were running back to the back, but fans got to the point where they were, I can't remember if they were either throwing things or about to throw things, or they were really angry as they were running back to the back area.
Because Vince, remember Stephanie was in Hunter's corner, and Vince essentially turned on The Rock.
That's right,
and that's essentially
right. Yep,
kind of what led to it. Yeah. But it was a ballsy move, and it set up. I mean, the next year at WrestleMania, Austin defeated The Rock, and the same fucking thing with the people leaving and growing fucking people crying that The Rock lost. So that's how popular The Rock was, and that's how important Triple H was to being that counterbalance at that time. Also, speaking of that WrestleMania, that's the first time we got Hunter versus Undertaker at Mania. And boy, you can't go wrong when Lemmy and Motorhead are fucking playing the song. And you got to give it up to one of the, probably, honestly, the best theme song ever done for professional wrestling. It encompassed everything that he was, including his own love of Motorhead.
Yeah.
So, and they go on, they do the King of Kings song and, Evolution's theme and, and there's another tie-in, Evolution, man.
Yeah.
Randy Orton and Batista are not who they are today without him
without a doubt
taking him under the wings.
Yeah.
And for God's sakes, Ric Flair was at his lowest of lows, and Hunter is the one who got him out of the funk to make him realize that he still had gas left in the tank and was loved and appreciated by the wrestling industry because Rick felt like he was chewed up and spit out at that point. So there's a lot of shit there. Not to mention that without Hunter, we don't get Katie Vick getting fucked in a casket on national television, man.
Yeah. But it's interesting that as we're all talking about Triple H and his contributions that, I think he presented a different way. And I think that when I've heard a lot of people, documentaries, they've said that Hunter understood the business. And there's a lot of people there's not a lot of people that I believe understand the business. Do you see what I'm saying? And I think that whenever I hear that statement being said, I hear of the business as a whole, not just as one player that you may start off in, seeing the facets of the business and where you can plug yourself into, once your time is up physically. Because let's be real, the one thing that's going to always win is time. And, it is what it is. And I think that he's always understood that. And I think that even early on, Triple H knew that reality. And that's why he started sitting in on creative meetings and sitting in with Triple H just before him and Stephanie did get involved, I think, as you mentioned, Michaels. And so that's the thing that to me, I've fallen in love with Triple H more with the movement of NXT, because I knew that already about him, not personally, but what was said about him, that, okay, hey, you're going to take this brand that's meant to not really fly. And he made it not just him on his own, but seeing the business. And so that's one thing I really wanted to point across, because, I'm more happy that he didn't die. Because to me, if he had died, we would have really, and we would have really lost a possible future cornerstone in the formation of this business moving forward in the next 10, 15, 20 years. You see what I'm saying? And it's not,
he's already that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that would have really, and when you talk about like Ric Flair, nothing left in the tank, or him getting to realize it, I feel that Triple H has only scratched the surface of his true potential, because he's working within somebody else's organization. Yes, he may have some more leeway than what we know. I don't know. I don't work for the company, but I could see more for him in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I'm just so thankful that he was able to be aware of his health and got him in, as he illustrated in the Stephen A. Smith interview, because man, that would suck to lose Triple H. I mean, like, damn, like, man, what is the next 20 years going to be like without
when you talk about this, what was going to come out of what could come out of Triple H? I think that's why when everything was happening with this transition of the new NXT 2.0, there were a lot of concerns and a lot of speculations that was out there. And because people first off see what he did do with NXT. In NXT before 2.0, and I'm not saying, and by the way, 2.0 is great, but before 2.0, what he did for NXT was just awesome. And when you look at the timeline, right? When you look at the timeline, because I went back today just to take a look, because I was like, when did he make that tweet that he talked about the fact he had the cardiac issue? That came September 21st. That's when he tweeted that. The week before that, 7 days, September 14th, that's when NXT 2.0 debuted. 7 days before that, September 7th, Triple H was very active on his social media. So from September 7th, he's retweeting, he's promoting, he's pushing. Then 2.0 comes, you don't hear anything, and then the 21st happens, and now you hear about what happened, and it's like, whoa. You can kind of see how people were going, wait, this is not looking right, And in some ways, who knows? Maybe when they knew that this announcement was going to come back earlier, who knows, in May and April, of, hey, this is what's going to happen. Triple H in some way could have maybe had a broken heart to know what was being built is now going to be changed for whatever reason. That's not.
But I have to interject. I got to interject because I'm a huge fan of NXT and even 2.0. Don't get me wrong. My gripes are that of an old man who don't like bright colors. But I still see Triple H's blueprint of NXT in NXT 2.0. And maybe that's just me because I love the product. So I think that Triple H probably didn't go full gas on what he was because he had these health concerns along the timeline of NXT 2.0, possibly. If you look at the timeline, but I don't know if it made a difference, but I just want to say that I think Triple H very much knew what was happening with NXT 2.0. I think it was on the calendar. I think he had a lot to do with it, and it turned out to be a great product for the most part. The next version, and it makes sense.
And I'm, by the way, I'm just throwing these things out there. I'm not saying you choose to make your own decision or whatever. I'm just saying, since 2.0 took place, there has been no tweet from Triple H on NXT 2.0. That doesn't mean he hated it. That doesn't mean he has something against it. That doesn't mean he's taking it personal. I'm just saying it's not there anymore. He spent an entire time while he was at NXT going in on promoting and pushing the product to not even mentioning nothing on his social media. And he has been. I'm just throwing it out.
It's kind of hard to do when you're
when you have heart problems.
Yeah.
No, because he has other. He's been posting. I just said he's not been posted anything for NXT 2.0, but he's got posts on there.
But I also want to add this because it was said in the interview. Okay, he kind of gave us a window eye view, I feel, of the relationship that he has, with Stephanie. You know, I think he used the word phrase, a cornerstone or everything. I think that it was in the best interest of his health, because you got to realize what he had going on is he was in the best shape of his life. You're gonna die. That's basically where he was. Do you see what I'm saying? He was being very vague in the interview. He had to immediately stop with anything that has to do with work. Because I'm gonna be real with you, the difference between me doing stuff for work and the stress levels that's included for that, and me doing side shit for myself or just posting on other stuff are two different type of stress levels. Let's be agreed upon on that one. So it was in his best interest to not even engage in anything that was work related. That was probably doctor's orders. And Stephanie, what he alluded to, she's like, look, you mean more to me than I don't give a shit about my family business.
Yeah, and you got to understand too, what's very funny about this whole situation with NXT is the reason so many fans were caught up in NXT was because that's where you had the ones who were the independent wrestling darlings, the ROH darlings, the TNA darlings going in there. So no matter what the fuck they did, if Hunter was involved or wasn't involved, the fans who put everything into Adam Cole and all that stuff, that's where their fucking loyalty was. It wasn't to the brand. It was to those guys. And those are the same people who are watching those guys in AEW, right?
Exactly.
And that's why AEW's audience is not growing. It's because that audience was already there.
Yeah.
So he's just pulling in people that, whereas NXT now has a guy in Hunter who doesn't have to right now be the day-to-day operations guy, but can be the voice of, touching base and also, guiding these younger people into the pro wrestling business, right? They're building the stars that are going to be the foundation of this company when Vince McMahon is gone.
Yeah, yep. Exactly.
100%.
So in a sense, what is happening right now, it might have sped up a process, essentially.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of all that timing, stuff got kind of jumbled on what Triple H's thoughts were. But it was all based on assumptions that people were making because of their love for those guys, And I think that's the biggest thing that's missed here is that NXT 2.0, those guys are just as good. You just don't know who they are yet.
I agree 100%.
Will be a part of developing those guys, especially once they get up to the main level, and he's foreseeably there.
That's a great point. I do want to just kind of circle back to him and his in-ring career, just because for a lot of people, the true measure of how good a professional wrestler is based off of their title runs and their decorations as champion. This is pretty fucking astounding. 9-time WWF/WWE champion, 5-time world heavyweight champion, 5-time intercontinental champion, 2-time European champion, 1-time unified tag team champion, 2-time WWF tag team champion, King of the Ring winner, 2-time Royal Rumble winner. He is the 7th Triple Crown champion and the 2nd Grand Slam champion in the history of WWE. I dare I say, I don't think there is any more decorated wrestler than Triple H.
And that's the problem too. The shame of it when it's thrown at him that the only reason he got this is because he is the,
exactly,
the son-in-law, which
exactly.
is total bullshit. And I know from, certain guys, when they've been out of the business for a while, Hunter is the one who embraces them.
Yeah.
If you get a call for the Hall of Fame, you're getting it from Hunter.
He was the one that brought Bruno back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's
I heard he negotiated the deal with Macho Man's brother.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but with regards to Triple H behind the scene, a lot of the negotiation that would have went on with a lot of the guys from NXT, from the black and gold brand to the 2.0, would have probably been negotiated and probably would have stayed on if he didn't have these health problems. That's what I was going to say a little bit earlier, to a certain extent.
I don't think so, because those contracts were not getting renewed, essentially.
Even like the William Regal one, possibly?
Oh no, I think that they were moving out of that phase. I don't think that that was.
So it was a personal choice then, maybe?
Not a personal choice, but that was a Nick Khan call, right? So you got to remember, you got the business guy who was involved, who was, kind of seeing where. You got to believe Regal was getting a lot of money.
Oh, heck
Samoa
yeah.
Joe was probably getting a decent amount of money, even with getting rehired back and stuff like that. So you're probably dealing with that kind of stuff. But again, the negotiations, not so much, because Hunter wasn't the business side of it. He wasn't talent relations. But you have to think, especially with the accomplishments, that he's as much as you want to talk about the Undertaker, Triple H is actually the guy who parallels Undertaker in a sense. And that is, both those guys started at the end of the NWA, at the early WCW days. And what happened is that these guys got influenced by Dusty. So essentially what Triple H has been doing throughout his later part of, once he got into his, mid to late 30s, he was emulating what Dusty did for everyone. And, the truth of the matter is that when you look at territories, Hunter gets a bad rep because of the fact he married into Vince's family. But if you go from the AWA, it was Gagne. And when Gagne was not having the belt, it was Bockwinkel, who was married to Gagne. Dusty controlled Florida for his whole fucking life.
Yeah.
So all these guys, the Von Erichs and all these guys, that's what it is. You have to have a certain point of nepotism when you're in charge. And when you look at things not working, it's still amazing. And this is why I always have the cautions about AEW, is because Tony Khan is the owner of the company, right? But he has no experience. Eric Bischoff and WCW had arguably 2 good years, and that's it. And it's the guys who really were not, Vince Russo gets all the shit thrown at him because of the fact that he wasn't, a legacy guy. He didn't know about that kind of shit. So he tried shit that just didn't work. And, Dixie Carter ended up selling her company because of the same thing. So in a sense, the idea that he just happened to be married to Stephanie was a secondary thought to the most crucial moment in his professional career, and that was he was in the room with Shawn and Vince, and he kept his mouth shut when the Montreal screw job happened. Vince, he trusted him from that day on. And that was it, man. Those guys became his fucking sons. You know, it was Shane, Shawn, and Hunter. And that, you know, that's it. And the only other, you know, I think it's arguable that as much as he loves Austin and Taker, he has a different love and respect. Vince has a different love and respect for those guys. I think the same with The Rock. Cena's the only one who's kind of arguably in that same boat because John had the same mentality as Hunter. So, you know, he's so important. And I think that now that we're looking at least 10 years removed and a little bit more from that 2010, now younger fans don't really understand, and older fans, maybe they've kind of gotten a better, you know, feeling about him because he's not in their minds being pushed down their throat all the time. And you see that, you know, you see that with guys as the time passes and they're not in their prime anymore.
Yeah, all good points. Well, I think the good news, like we've mentioned, is that we still got Triple H around, and that means good news. Professional wrestling will still we'll still see some very good things that will come out from WWE having him in those positions, and we're just excited to see you know, what he's going to do. But he means a lot to a lot of us. I think when I remember the very first time I saw him, of course he wasn't Triple H. He was Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yeah.
He went by the full name. And I think he had the long coat. He would come down and his nose would be up as he's I used to say, as a kid, it was just funny watching him, like, you know, why are you so mean? You know, I'm thinking to myself, you know, but it was that moment that you just became you just became a fan and just enjoy his craft at that point. So, man, Triple H, man, yeah, hopefully, man, everything would just continue to work out. And
I also love how you all technically were quote unquote kids at that time.
I wasn't a kid.
Like I thought, for some reason, I thought, I'm thinking of myself as being maybe around
like 11 or
8 or 9. I thought that's what I'm thinking as a kid.
Jesus
but I don't,
Christ, dude!
No, man,
1995, man.
Yeah,
95. Yeah, I was 13 years old.
Yeah, like
yeah, I was gonna say like 12, 13.
Yeah,
right, I'm not too far off. You know,
dude, you're saying you're younger than me.
One, I didn't say I was one. Oh God!
But what I'm getting at though is what's interesting is, see, that's not my perspective.
Yeah.
But that time I was already, 20 years old, and even though Hunter's older than me, he's only older by 6 or so years.
Right.
So for me, he would have been someone who could have been a friend of mine's older brother. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that's the fascinating thing. When I see him, I think of him as that guy who we all, who the guys my age looked at as not exactly a peer, but not someone that we're in awe of. It's someone we respect and want to learn more about and learn more from.
Well said.
Yeah. All right, guys. Unless you got anything else, we're gonna call it a show. And we just want to thank everybody for listening and
DJ, since this is right after WrestleMania,
that's right.
I guess we better say So it was really cool when he ended up being Seth Rollins' mystery opponent at WrestleMania. That blew everyone's mind.
That right there would be such a mind blown. It would be the greatest work since Will Smith slapping Chris Rock.
Pretty much.
That would top that 100%.
Oh my God.
Hey, if Steve, look, Stephen A. said at the end of that interview, he might have to talk to Vince and them. He said he wants to be a Paul Heyman. He wants to be a Despicable. And Paul, that is his name. Paul basically responded to him saying, well, I could definitely say that you are well hated and people want to hit you in the face. So, I mean, you might very well see Stephen A. Smith next WrestleMania instead of Logan Paul, which I'm all for one happy about.
Like they said, and I don't know if Nick Khan gonna be okay with this. He said, you gotta pay me though. You gotta pay me.
But you know what? I'm gonna add this and I'll leave this alone. You know who hates the Dallas Cowboys more than anything in the world? He'd have been perfectly to fit in anywhere in WrestleMania is Stephen A. Smith. He hates the motherfucking Cowboys. Oh, okay. He hates them.
Oh man. All right, y'all. Well, look, thanks for hanging out with us. Continue to share, download, subscribe, tell others. Keep us on the map. We appreciate everything you've done and continue to do. We'll see you, I guess, the following week. Back to our regularly scheduled program. All right. Until then, take care. Mania was great. I'm just going to say it was fun. It was exciting. And I can't wait to do it next year.